The year is 1944, and sometime in the month of May, a platoon of German Fallschirmjäger is pinned down in the hedgerows of Normandy. They're being systematically erased, not by artillery or a carpet bombing, but by a single American tripod-mounted heavy machine gun. This is the M2.50 caliber Browning. To the GIs, she was Deuce. To the Germans, she was a war crime disguised as a piece of hardware. The German army had the MG-42, the Hitler's buzzsaw, which was scary and sounded like a tearing sheet. But the MG-42 fired a 7.92mm round, essentially a rifle bullet. The M2 fired the .50 BMG, which in comparison to the Germans' weapon is a flying kinetic sledgehammer. The thing the Germans especially hated about the M2 was that it practically disassembled you. At 2,000 yards, the .50 caliber could punch through the engine block of a truck. When it hit a human body, physics took over in the worst way possible. The Germans actually lodged formal complaints, claiming the weapon was unnecessarily cruel. They argued it was an anti-materiel gun being used as an anti-personnel weapon. In response, the Americans just kept pulling the trigger. The beautiful thing about all this is that the Americans had a loophole so perfectly legal and so brutally effective that it made the German high command want to tear their hair out. But how did the Americans pull that off? Well, here's the thing. The Germans did the very official and very proper thing of filing their complaint through neutral Switzerland. They cited the Hague Convention and everything. Their lawyers probably felt pretty good about it too. Instead of playing right into the Germans' hands, the Americans responded by saying they weren't shooting at the shooters, but instead at their belt buckles. Yes, you heard that right. American gunners were instructed to aim at equipment like helmets, belt buckles, canteens, entrenching tools, basically anything metal a soldier might be wearing or carrying. The fact that you can't really separate a belt buckle from the guy wearing the belt was not America's problem. And so, the complaints kept coming. The Americans kept aiming at equipment. Deuce kept turning people into pink mist. Now, the Norman hedgerows were supposed to be the great equalizer. Ancient walls of earth and roots, some older than most European countries. They were 6 feet tall, thick as a car, and had the perfect defensive terrain. The Germans thought they could turtle up behind them and bleed the Americans white. Here's what the Germans didn't understand. A .50 BMG round doesn't care about ancient Roman farming techniques. The hedgerow, the dirt behind it, and even the stacked sandbags were basically turned into confetti. American crews figured this out fast. They didn't need to see the Germans. They just needed to know which hedgerow was full of them, and then they'd spend 5 minutes turning it into a salad. The hedgerow, the Germans, sometimes the hedgerow behind that one, all of it got the Deuce treatment. But what actually happens when a .50 BMG hits a person? First off, the temporary wound cavity, which is the bubble of destruction the bullet creates as it passes through, can be bigger than a soccer ball. The body is mostly water, and when something moving that fast hits water, the water doesn't have time to move out of the way. It just explodes. Instead of breaking, bones turn into shrapnel. Internal organs rupture from the pressure wave, not even from direct contact. The heart can stop from the shock alone. There are documented cases of guys getting hit in the arm and dying instantly because their brain just hemorrhaged from the pressure change. Medics stopped trying to reach guys hit by .50 caliber in exposed positions, mainly because there was nothing to save. You don't survive a .50 caliber hit the way you might survive a rifle bullet. You just stop being a person and start being a biological smear that someone's going to have to write a letter home about. Now, if you talk to German veterans, the ones who made it through, they'll tell you about the M2 sound. Thump, thump, thump. It was a strange kind of sound, very slow and deliberate, and it almost sounded like someone knocking on a door, except the door was your skull, and the knocker weighed half an inch and was moving faster than a race car. The thing about that sound was the distance. You'd hear it from so far away that you'd think, oh, that's not close, we're fine. And then the guy next to you would just sort of come apart. Because 1,800 meters is nothing to a .50 caliber. That's over a mile. You could be having lunch in what you thought was a safe rear position, complaining about the food, talking about your girl back home, and then suddenly, you're an only child because your brother just got hit by a round that was fired from a zip code away. German soldiers developed this Pavlovian response to that sound. Even on leave, even back in Germany, they'd hear something that sounded close, a truck backfiring, a door slamming, and they'd hit the deck. The psychological warfare aspect of the M2 was almost worse than the physical damage. Germans were used to understanding the battlefield. They knew rifle fires were dangerous to about 300 meters. Machine guns could be pegged at around 800. But these rules did not apply to the M2. You could be 1,500 meters away, almost a full mile, and still very much in the danger zone. Tank crews learned this the hard way. Sure, the .50 couldn't punch through their armor, but the periscopes and vision ports ended up being absolutely destroyed. That antenna you need to coordinate with other tanks became scrap metal. And God help you if you were riding on top, which German tank crews did all the time, because the alternative was being trapped inside when it caught fire. By the time the war ended, the Americans had cranked out over 2 million M2 Brownings. 2 million. They were on everything you could think of: jeeps, half-tracks, tanks, planes, boats, and defensive positions. If it was American and it moved, it probably had a .50 caliber on it somewhere. This was American manufacturing doing what it did best, taking a problem and throwing overwhelming industrial capacity at it until the problem ceased to exist. Germany had the brilliant engineers, the experienced troops, the sophisticated tactics. America, on the other hand, had the factories that never stopped running and the logistical network to deliver the goods. The M2 is still in service today, by the way. Same basic design from 1921. There are guns in service right now that were manufactured during World War II. They outlasted the war and the guys who used them. And from the looks of things, they're probably going to outlast us too. For the Germans who faced it though, Deuce was a nightmare wrapped in legalese, a weapon that could kill you from distances you thought were safe, through cover you thought was solid, with bullets designed for trucks, but aimed officially at your belt buckle.